Welcome back everyone to GGN. This is part 3. This is going to be a shorter video. Hopefully I can get this done like in 5 minutes. And then the fourth video will be a regular full-time one. I just wanted to throw this out there because we left off with all these drills going on with the West, Royal Navy troops heading over there with the chemical weapons types of equipment, mock gear, and doing those types of drills. So they're getting ready for something, and maybe it'll be nothing. How many times have we heard this where it's going to be something and it's absolutely nothing? Makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes as far as actual hot wars and that go, how close they actually are there to taking place, and they never take place. It makes you wonder what kind of deals are being done behind closed doors. But like I said towards the end, which was that in the, we were talking about defeating political Zionism and Islam and Christianity and atheism all at the same time, and then of course bring out the Luciferian doctrine. So I do believe when it's all said and done, like Egypt, like Libya, like pretty much Afghanistan, I mean, there's always going to be violence there. Like Iraq, they want failed states. So maybe they will be able to run pipelines still through there or extract their resources. But Libya is kind of like what they have. I think they're still pumping their oil out of there, but it pretty much is like a failed state, and they got civil war and all kinds of stuff going on. So they want that, but also if what Kurdistan might see if they get their own state given to them, handed to them, will be what? Will be kind of a state that promotes not so much green energy, but the idea of environmentalism, eco-terrorism, Agenda 21, LGBT rights, destruction of the family, traditional family, feminism, abortion, high divorce rates, consumerism, mass consumerism, entertainment culture, Hollywood type culture. This is what they would get. But even with that, there are still legitimate interests. Someone made a good point, M. Michaels, as far as, damn you, Darko. He didn't say damn me, but, you got it all wrong. That this whole thing with Syria has nothing to do with any other country. It has to do with taking down a sovereign country. I think there's so many angles and complexities that it's hard to really say that it's this one particular thing and that's it, and everybody else shut up because you're wrong. I think that there's just layers upon layers of lies and misinformation that it's hard to really peg one particular thing and then to claim that you have that as the sole universal truth. That's hard, man. That's just hard. That's hard to stand on. That's why, for me, I try to just make a kind of an overview of what's going on. I'll give my opinion, but I just present all this stuff so that you can, other people can make up their own minds. It may not necessarily mean that I agree with something, and I don't want to be part of some disinformation op, and Depka file isn't necessarily the 100% legitimate source as far as not being Zionist. But I don't really think that there are sources that are 100% not, trying to disinform people. So I figured if I put up enough articles, people can kind of connect the dots and read between the lines themselves. So yeah, it is about taking Syria down, and as far as Russia and China goes, I think they're all part of this game. It's all part of the chess game. So, and it is about bringing down Syria, but I also think that there's always going to be economic interests with the West trading bloc and the East trading bloc. Chinese landing craft with 1,000 Marines for Syria, says reports from September 6. Western naval sources are reporting Friday that a Chinese landing craft, I already reported on this, with a strong Marine battalion has reached the Red Sea en route for the Mediterranean off Syria. So, it says here they've already deployed a number of warships opposite Syria in secret. So, if confirmed, it will be the largest Chinese deployment in the Middle East in naval history. Maybe it has nothing to do with Syria. Maybe everything that's going on is about Syria taking down a sovereign country, but maybe what they're doing is going after something else. So, like I said, there's all kinds of things. It can have to do with pipelines that have nothing to do with Syria, but that doesn't mean that they're not there. Chinese warships cross, all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, I don't mark out possibilities of, underwater alien bases. I mean, I'm not saying that they exist, but I'm not saying that they don't exist, only because this world is crazy. And I know that even scientists admit that, 80% of the ocean is undiscovered. So as far as species and that, so who knows? I mean, it's some kind of the Golan Heights thing that I mentioned about how it's actually like a vortex that allows entities from astral realms, negative entities in here, you know what I mean? And they're battling for that, or some kind of, whatever. Chinese warship crosses Suez, possibly bound for Syria. Crossing adds to speculation about massive naval drill. And this was from August 2nd, 2012. Egypt was reporting a Chinese warship is crossing the Suez today in the Mediterranean, presumably en route to war-torn Syria. But it was probably for this drill. You have the Pope reiterating rejection for Syria strike. He was calling for fasting, I believe, and prayer. But he says here that he denounced the trade war phenomenon, which has recently pervaded, calling on the leaders to pursue a political solution for the crisis. Violence and war lead only to death, and they speak of death. So violence and war are the language of death, he said. It is interesting that he used that word, those words, trade wars. I covered this, in February of this year. Currency wars often lead to trade wars, and which in turn can devolve into hot wars. According to numerous high-level insiders, the global currency war is accelerating, and I guess these are all different German banks and American banks, Russian banks, and China, of course. But it says here they call some leaders of countries to devalue or consider further devaluing their currencies. Yeah, it says here the last time there was a serious competitive devaluations, it was ended in World War II. Jim Rogers says trade wars always lead to wars. But Russia's Gazprom, American Halliburton signed major energy deal. Russia's state-owned energy giant Gazprom has signed a major cooperation agreement with the huge American Energy Services Corporation, Halliburton, to facilitate technological exchanges to boost production from August 14th, 2013. So we just covered this. I see it past the 7-minute mark. Pentagon to buy Russian helicopters despite ban. So this is, to me, when I see this stuff, I just think when I say, ooh, China's going to invade us and Russia's going to invade us, I just think it's a bunch of shit. Not that it doesn't mean that they're not going to somehow carry out some kind of invasion, but that somehow there's a difference. That's why I say, as far as World War III, with World War IIIs, there has to be sovereign nations in order to fight. There are none. Everyone's been conquered. You can't even go and hide in the woods without getting harassed, right? Every square inch of this, what I call a prison planet, that's what they've made it into, is sectioned off, quarantined, zoned, and exploited, including the human resources, the people that inhabit it. Part of World War II is defeating nationalism. So what we have now are just a big, huge global corporation and different corporations, like subsidiaries of the big guy, the big corporation, the monopoly that runs it. The subsidiaries are Russia, China, United States, or the NAU, and the EU. And all this crap that when people say, they build it up about, us versus them, the Chinese and the Reds versus the free Americans in the West, that just builds up this arms complex where these people are just trading with each other. And you've heard about or read about Chinese buying, I think it was a Lockheed Martin or Boeing jets and stuff, and the U.S. buying, equipment from the Chinese that has back doors on it for tech equipment. China took away Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India pipeline from USA. This is Central Asia. This is what I've been mentioning recently. So it talks about a deal that was made will increase the total volume of Turkmenistan's gas supplied to China up to 65 billion cubic meters. It says at the same time, the agreement is achieved on the planned new direction of a Turkmenistan-China pipeline. And then talking about OPEC, India and Japan joined forces to control cost of liquefied natural gas imports. They're planning liquefied natural gas imports group in a bid to reduce the Asian premium and diversity of their import services or sources. So it says here that LNG prices in Asia are substantially higher than those of other major consuming regions such as Europe and North America. And I thought I'd finish up with some drone strikes. NATO kills at least 10 civilians in Afghan airstrike, although I don't know if this was a drone. It says that NATO airstrike targeted a pair of pickup trucks full of civilians yesterday in the Kunar province, killing at least 10, by some accounts 12 people, including 4 women and 4 young children. But NATO's official statement on the killings praised the precision strike and dubbed all of the slain, including women and children, as enemy forces. They said that they were aware of the claims that the slain were civilians, but had no reason to think that this was the case. U.S. drones kill 11 in Yemen, including civilians. Yemen says at least 2 civilians among the slain. U.S. drones hit multiple targets in Yemen today, killing at least 11 people, including at least 2, but potentially many more innocent civilian bystanders, according to Yemeni officials. The military claimed that all the slain were al-Qaeda militants, but officials later revised this count to say that only 4 of the dead had links to al-Qaeda. 2 of the slain were definitely civilians. This is the second time that Yemeni officials have publicly conceded to civilian deaths, an unusual trend in a nation where the policy is usually to deny civilian victims no matter how much evidence there is to support it. And then we've talked about this before. I want to keep not stressing it, but kind of put it out there just so you know. As far as North Africa, they're not done with this. They're not done with the Tuareg rebels in Mali and Mali in general. They're not done with Egypt. They're not done with Libya. You have the UK that sending that ship according to a dispute. That's what they say, a dispute with Spain and Gibraltar and Morocco, basically, that type area. There's a permanent, I believe it's Marine force, but it could be Army force of troops being stationed and will be deployed, I believe, by next year, 2014, in Africa. I think they call it a Dagger Brigade or something. And Somalia's been heating up recently. Algeria deploys 12,000 soldiers on Tunisia border. We've covered this last week, but it has been confirmed as of today. Algeria has positioned 12,000 soldiers along its border with Tunisia amid threats of terrorist attacks and in the area. The source added that during the past 4 months, Algerian authorities have set up 60 checkpoints and outposts in the area. So what's interesting about Algeria is that Algeria was the place where the BP disaster, well, not BP disaster, but there was a refinery that was blown up. And it was basically carried out by a CIA asset. And they blamed it on these terrorists that were somehow, it was basically dragged into the whole Mali conflict, and that's remember, it all fizzled out where France was at the spearheading it, wanting to get UN and all that in there. There has been UN troops that were dispatched to the UN, or they were authorized, but they haven't deployed yet to Mali. But that whole deal where the Algerian government basically shot everybody, including the people, the civilians, the people that were kidnapped. They were using it as human shields. So, 2 militants killed, 2 arrested near Tunisian capital. Security forces killed 2 militants and arrested 2 others, with officials saying that they were linked to recent assassinations of opposition politicians. 2 men were leaders of the military wing of the Salafist extremist group Ansar al-Sharia. So the assassination of the opposition leader in July, almost August, triggered widespread anti-government rallies nationwide. The slain official held a seat in the assembly tasked with writing the new constitution. There you go, folks. 7 minutes, right on the dot, right? This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Please join me in part 4. I got some different interesting news. Thank you.